Levin, this is Life, Liberty, and Levin. David Limbaugh, how are you, sir?
Great, how are you?
I should say David Limbaugh, Esquire, because you're one of my many lawyers.
Yes.
But my favorite one, may I say that?
It's an honor.
Yes. Of course, my wife is a lawyer. Got all kinds of lawyers here. Tell you what I want to do on the program. You've written the definitive book on the left, Guilty by Reason of Insanity, Why the Democrats Must Not Win. It's very, very important, and it applies to events that are taking place today, whether it's impeachment, whether it's the candidates who are running for the Democrat nomination and their agendas. And you point out in your book that basically the left is at war with America. The left is at war with America. Is this illustrated by what they're doing with impeachment? Is this illustrated by Antifa? Is this illustrated by what the media are doing? What do you mean by that?
They reject the American idea. They believe America was born in hell. They are against the fundamental concepts that drove America's founders, such as free enterprise, constitutionalism, limited government, and at the core, of course, is liberty. And everything they stand for is totalitarian. The end justifies the means. And so while they claim to respect democracy, and they don't know the difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic, but nevertheless, they claim that they respect democracy, and yet they're doing everything to undermine it. They will not accept the results of the 2016 election, so they're doing everything they can to undermine it, to disqualify it, to weaken Trump and defeat him. And so what the book really points out is the horror show that would ensue if they ever did get power back in the major branches of government. It's really scary how extreme they've become and how quickly they've become extreme and come out of the closet unapologetically. And I detail all the many ways they've done so.
And you go across the horizon, every aspect of our culture and the civil society, the left's agenda, what would happen to this country should they win the election this time around. You view this as truly a profound point in American history, don't you?
Yes, it's urgent. We've always said it's urgent, the latest election. But they've gotten to the point where they would implement socialism, they reject the free market, they would cause the government to implement a complete redistribution of income, high taxes, so they would gut basically everything we stand for. And if you lose the freedom tradition in this country, you lose what America is. They don't respect the rule of law. They undermine the Constitution through lawless executive orders, judicial activism, end runs around the Constitution, open borders. And they've gotten to be a party of the culture of death. They're extreme on all fronts. And you've seen in the Democratic debates exactly how radical they are. One tries to trump the other in terms of how extreme they are. Their environmental mania, the proposals they've put forth to implement those are unsustainable. You can't pay for them. But in the meantime, they would tax the wealthy. They would implement draconian regulations but beyond what we have now. They want to delegate everything they can to the administrative state. And by the way, this ties to the current situation. We don't just mean by deep state the establishment politicians. We mean this entrenched administrative bureaucracy, which is inhabited mostly by liberals, career bureaucrats, who to this very day are undermining Trump and his administration, trying to keep him from implementing his agenda. So across the board, whether it's career bureaucrats in the administrative branch, who are insulated from accountability, by the way, and the entire system, the administrative law, undermines the Constitution, the separation of powers, because it consolidates the executive, legislative, and judicial in that one unelected branch. They would continue to thwart his agenda if they're elected, and more of them are going to be appointed. And if they are further elected, if the Democrats regain the presidency and the legislative branch, they would implement these policies to enforce their environmental agenda. And you've seen what the Green New Deal does. By the way, this book is comprehensive. I go into all of the aspects of the left, the liberalism, from their socialism to the abortion, the gender mania, all of it. and I go into the background of the philosophical background. It's not just examples. I'm trying to explain to people why our ideas are better than the left's ideas, why our ideas are consonant with the founders' ideas, and why it matters. I defend capitalism morally and practically, describe how socialism is devastating, impoverishing, enslaving, and how scary it is that these Democrats, who are now wholly owned by the left, would transform this country, would complete the fundamental transformation that Obama initiated.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned Obamacare. That was supposed to be the end-all and be-all.
Yeah.
This fundamental transformation of the left, when you listen to these Democrat candidates who are running, it never stops, does it?
No.
They're always aggressively pushing their agenda, and it always involves the centralization of government, the expansion of government power, the diminution of individual liberty, the diminution of rule of law, of constitutionalism, which seems to be the point of your book. In other words, this would be a big kickstart beyond what Obama ever dreamed should the Democrats win the presidency and take over the Congress next time around. And these proposals that the Democrats are making, they're just treated like proposals by the press. What's the big deal? You know, a wealth tax?
Yeah.
Is that constitutional? Is that in the Constitution?
Absolutely not. And it's preposterous. Their ideas don't stand up to just minimal scrutiny. There is no way that Warren's wealth tax, for example, will generate the kind of revenues that are needed to finance the outlandish proposals, spending proposals she's made. But I think beyond that, they would destroy our liberties. They would destroy our incentive to produce. They would cause a collapse of our economy. We never make that point. And we have to make this point to young voters who are increasingly embracing socialism, although they don't know what it means. All they see it as compassion. So in the book, I try to explain how ultimately capitalism is more compassionate if you look at results. And if you look how it is consistent with human nature, because we are made in God's image to be free creatures. Socialism is all about government control. The left believes that our rights come from government, and so they're not permanent. We only have those rights that the government in its beneficence allows us to have. We believe that our rights are God-given, and therefore you can't take them away, and that's a major difference. They are taking them away. Increasingly, we're losing our liberties. We have to make the point, and we have to reiterate the point of how important liberty is. It's not just a word.
Do you think now than ever before the left is really out of the closet? I mean, they used to try, I think, to camouflage some of what they wanted to do. In this election cycle, as you point out, one's trying to outdo the other, move further and further left. You have this Robert Francis O'Rourke. He wants to actually send the police door to door to confiscate people's weapons. Yeah. You have Julian Castro, who's talking about a 70 to 90% top marginal tax rate on some of our taxpayers. You have Elizabeth Warren, who's taken every radical position imaginable, whether it is government-run single-payer health care or whatever it is. You have people talking about no border, eliminating ICE, eliminating the Border Patrol. Has the Democrat Party, as you point out, why the Democrats must not win, is the Democrat Party more radical today than ever? Oh, yeah.
Now, I have argued that, people will say the two parties have the same goals, they just have different ideas about how to get there. I radically reject that and talk about that in the book. I never did buy it, but it's increasingly, demonstrably untrue today. They have a different vision for America based on a different worldview. As I said, they reject the American idea. They reject America as founded. They believe.
What is their worldview?
I think their worldview